that Philippe Clement is going to be sacked. Everyone knows you can't keep him as manager if we've let Michael Beale and Giovanni van Bronckhorst go for the same reasons, but there's a but, and it's a serious question that might, just might, keep Clement around a little longer. It's his contract termination fee. Is it worth sending him packing now? Let's discuss this, and finally we'll talk about two names already positioning themselves for the manager spot after Clement. This video is packed. Why to sack him, how much it would cost, and who should take the job next. To get daily Rangers news at your fingertips, just hit the notification bell. Let's get into the news. We are the people. All right, things at Rangers are getting tense, and Philippe Clement's position is looking shakier than a wobbly table down at the Loudon Tavern on match day. Gregory Vignal, the former Rangers man, reckons the poor lad is under immense pressure and that the next 10 days could be make or break. And he's not wrong. It's a brutal schedule with big matches coming thick and fast, and Clement can't afford to slip even once if he wants to keep his job. Think about it. Clement walked in knowing Rangers wasn't exactly a stable gig. 3 managers in as many seasons tells you all you need to know about patience at Ibrox, but he signed up regardless, hoping to bring some much-needed stability to a club that's been lurching from crisis to crisis. Now, he finds himself 9 points adrift of Celtic and Aberdeen after a brutal 2-1 defeat to Aberdeen on October 30th. That loss not only stung the fans, but also dealt a hammer blow to our league hopes, with the title dream looking all but over before we've even hit winter. For a club like Rangers, that's an absolute scandal. Vignal, with his unique perspective as both a former player and manager of the women's team, knows what that pressure feels like. He says Clement's got it worse than most, with everyone from the board to the fans breathing down his neck. As he put it, when you sign as Rangers manager, you can't complain. But let's face it, the job is no walk in the park, especially with a squad. That's hardly living up to the badge. And with John Gillian still in as interim CEO, it's debatable if anyone at the top has the guts or the funds to pull the trigger on yet another managerial shakeup. It's like we're caught between a rock and a hard place. Sack him and repeat the cycle, or keep him and risk another wasted season. And fans are starting to ask, if the board expected this season to be a transitional one, did they ever think they should have said it out loud? The problems started early for Clement. In the league, his start has been rough, aside from one shining moment with that 2-0 Europa League win away at Malmo in September. He's floundered in domestic play. Remember that painful Old Firm loss in September? 3-0 to Celtic, a brutal reminder of the widening gap between us and them. Add to that, Champions League exit against Dynamo Kyiv, a loss to Kilmarnock, and now Aberdeen. This pattern of dropping big games is becoming hard to defend, and it's painfully clear he's not the miracle worker some hoped he'd be. So here we are facing the same question we had with Michael Beale and Giovanni van Bronckhorst. Are we doomed to keep swapping managers every year? And if so, is it any wonder no one can seem to steer this ship back on course? Financially, it's a nightmare too. Clement didn't walk into a team ready to thrive. He walked into one in desperate need of repair. His signings were limited, with just over £14 million spent on 10 new faces in the summer window, and he only got back about £2.5 million. It's clear the board wanted a tighter wage bill and fewer costly mistakes. But let's not kid ourselves, the current squad isn't exactly setting the pitch alight. He's not helped by the fact that the fans want immediate results, yet the players he's had to rely on just haven't delivered consistently. And the board, well, they seem to be keeping quiet for now. maybe hoping things will magically turn around. The noises coming out of Ibrox, as they say, suggest they'll stick by him for now. There's an air of indecision that feels familiar, a bit like what we had with Beale and Van Bronckhorst, where they just linger until the inevitable boot. If he makes it through these next 3 games, especially with that League Cup semi-final against Motherwell looming on Sunday, Clement might just buy himself a little time, but even that feels like wishful thinking when you're managing a club with standards like Rangers. So here's a question that'll get you thinking. Is it time to break this cycle of managers, or should Clement be out the door if we fall short against Motherwell? Would another sacking solve anything at all, or are we just papering over deeper problems? And so here's the real issue with letting Philippe Clement go. £2 million. That's what he'd pocket if Rangers decide to send him packing. And David Edgar from the Heart and Hand podcast put it bluntly. Who in their right mind would walk away from a cushy payout like that? £2 million is no small chunk of change, especially when the club's already trying to tighten the purse strings. It's a serious financial commitment, and one that's making the board think twice. But here's the question. Is it wise to let that price tag dictate what's best for the team? We're 9 points adrift at the top, and that defeat to Aberdeen only deepened the feeling that things need a shake-up. Sure, paying Clement off would sting, but sticking with him might be costing us more in the long run. There's still a season to fight for, points to claw back, and cup competitions on the line. A fresh face could bring a new tactical spark, maybe even boost morale among a squad that's looking, let's face it, pretty deflated. That £2 million might seem steep now, but what's the cost of keeping things the same? Sometimes it's about the bigger picture. If a change brings even a glimmer of hope, then that money might just be the investment Rangers need. So here's a question for you. Is it wise to let the £2 million price tag hold us back, or would paying Clement off be a smart move to salvage this season? Are we really saving by keeping him, or just holding ourselves back? So Chris Boyd reckons Derek McInnes is the man to bring us back to basics. The former Rangers lad himself, looking sharp down at Kilmarnock, has that connection, and Boyd thinks he'd fit the bill. McInnes, after all, has turned the job down before, and for whatever reason, he stayed put back then. Some folk would say he dodged a bullet. Given what the job has become in recent seasons, 3 managers out the door before Christmas, that's hardly the lure it once was, is it? Boyd's got a point, though. Rangers are still a massive club, and we've got appeal across the football world, if only for the challenge. McInnes would know the lay of the land at Rangers, but he's been doing all right down at Rugby Park without this level of madness. As for our current state, the board seems hesitant to shake things up after that 2-1 loss to Aberdeen, probably hoping this was just the rough season we all knew was coming. But you've got to wonder, don't you, how long can we stomach building for the future? With performances that barely scrape past teams we should be handling comfortably, St Mirren, Killie, there's hardly a surge of confidence there. McInnes has had his fair share of achievements, that League Cup with Aberdeen and a couple of second-tier titles, but that's one thing. Keeping us steady at Rangers, that's a whole different ballgame. Even so, some fans would say he's more practical than an Ali McCoist return. Here's one for you. Do you think bringing in McInnes would be the reset we need, or are we just circling back to the same old ideas, hoping something finally sticks? Lurking in the shadows, we've got Steven Gerrard's name being tossed around for a possible return. A Rangers board member or two might just see him as the answer to all this chaos. Gerard's reportedly on the chopping block at Al Ettifaq in Saudi Arabia, and with a bit of Rangers nostalgia in the mix, it's tempting to see him as a quick fix. But as many will recall, his exit from Rangers wasn't exactly on the best of terms. Whether you believe Dave King's take that Gerard was pushed out, or you remember that infamous "Do I Look Happy" interview, the reality is he walked away at a critical time, leaving us scrambling in the midst of a season. Gerard's legacy with us includes that fantastic title win in 2020-21, but it's not Walter Smith's era all over again. Gerard's knows Smith, and heading backwards with him could be a disaster. Let's face it, Rangers need proper structure, not another patch job. That means a solid plan with a competent CEO and a sporting director, not just a familiar face with blue-tinted appeal. We're at a critical point here where nostalgia could seriously cloud our judgment. Here's the real debate. Is bringing Gerard back a genuine solution, or just a lazy nostalgia trip that risks taking us even further backwards? Comment below what you think about the news. Don't forget to leave a like on the video to help me out. I post videos every day talking about our Rangers, so if you're not subscribed, you're missing out on the latest news. See you soon.